Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I am trying to catch up on some filming, so I'm wearing the same outfit I was wearing in the last video. I don't know if anyone ever really notices that, but I always mention it anyway if that happens. Today's going to be a speed reviews video. I have several products where I have my feelings together on that I am now excited and ready to share with you. Let's start with this highlighter from Fenty. So starting with the packaging, look at it. It looks like water. It is a very pretty packaging. It's reflective when you can see the phone that I'm filming on, but it has very pretty packaging. So the actual product is called the Demi Glow Light Diffusing Highlighter, and it comes in several different shades. I had the lightest one called Pretty Purlz. So it has a little snap closure like that. It's really easy to open. It comes with a mirror, and this is what the product looks like. And it is more of a soft pressed powder formula. I accidentally dug my nail in right there. So this is one of those powders I would be a little bit careful with. It doesn't like seem crumbly or anything like that to me, just a little soft. And right now, I think this is my favorite powder highlighter, and I never ever thought I would say that anything could be better than my Nabla one. And I don't know if it is better, but right now this one is my favorite. So I am wearing it today, and I didn't wear any setting spray because I really wanted you to be able to see how softening it is, even if you don't use like anything to help it melt into your skin. It is very easily quite beaming. You really don't need a lot. But even though it can be very high intensity, I find it to be a softening formula. Like it just makes your skin a little blurred, and it just lays very gently and softly across the skin. Like it does not look powdery. I don't see any chunks of glitter. I really think this is a special formula. I have not tried, all the highlighters out there, but this instantly I could tell was special. Fenty highlighters are not cheap, but for me, again, this really hits the mark. I've been really enjoying it. Let's talk about mascaras. I have a couple to talk about, one of which is an update. So I think it was last year I talked about how much I absolutely adore the Caliray mascara. Well, when I reviewed that mascara, I just had a mini of it, and since I had so many mascaras to review and go through, I hadn't purchased a new one until now. So I finally am trying a full tube. Interestingly, this tube is a lot more wet than the initial formula I tried. The one I tried, it was a bit more dry, so it was very easy to fan out my lashes, and it did take a little bit more work for it to come off. Even though it is a tubing formula, I felt like it just took a little bit more patience. This tube must be just a very fresh tube. It's more wet, and it also removes more easily. So I'm not as enamored with this as I was initially, but I'm gonna keep using it, hoping it'll dry out so we'll get to my favorite texture where it fans out the lashes just so perfectly. I just really like having a tubing mascara open at all times. There's times where I'm like, I'm gonna want to be able to remove my mascara super easily. Often when I'm putting my mascara on late in the evening and I'm only gonna be wearing it for like a couple hours, I'm like, I would rather just have something I can wash off easily. Or the opposite is also true. Tubing mascaras like this one from Caliray last really well all day, so I also tend to reach for them when I need something to wear for 12 or more hours. So in general, I just really like a tubing mascara. But I just wanted to give that update that this is a lot more wet than I remember, so it's at the moment not as high of a favorite as it was last year. Now, as for the mascara that I've actually been testing, I am wearing this one today. This is the classic Maybelline Lash Sensational, and I think today is the nicest that my lashes have looked with this mascara. So this is another one that's pretty wet, and I've been judging it kind of harshly, I think, because of that. Even if I get my lashes all nice and fanned out with this one, which I do accomplish quite often, once I blink a few times, they will clump together a little bit. It's just because the formula is so wet. But today it's not doing that. So I'm very pleased with how it's doing today. Hopefully it will continue to dry out a little bit and continue to look better and better. I do have a short up where I talk a little bit more about this mascara. It has a nice curved wand. This one doesn't wear perfectly on me. I will get a little bit of smudging, a little bit of flaking. And initially when I apply it, it is pretty wet. So if I blink right after I apply it, sometimes I'll get that like smear of mascara right here where my lashes will touch my eyelid. Not my favorite, but I'm gonna continue to use it. This is one of those that by the time I get through it, maybe it'll be a favorite by the time it's an empty. But at the moment, it's just okay. Let's talk about a bronzer, then we'll talk about all the eyeshadows that I have to mention. So I have been testing this classic, well, should I say classic? Yeah, I'm gonna say classic. It's been out for a lot of years. This is from RMS Beauty, and this is a brand that I have been so interested in trying their products because I love their blushes so much. So now I'm like really wanting to try all their things. So this is their classic Buriti bronzer. Unfortunately, it only comes in one shade, which I find very interesting. Like, why would they make that choice? But anyway, that is what it looks like in the pan. It is kind of like a melty, kind of oily feeling product. When you first swatch it, it will look incredibly glowy. Look how glowy that is. But I find that when I wear it, it does not have like a super intense glow. It's not a highlightery bronzer. It just looks very unified with your skin, you know? Gives a really pretty glow without you looking like you applied a lot of glow. Also, the texture is very, very thin and super spreadable. This is one of those where it's kind of hard to use too much. Look at how nice that is. And you can see that it has kind of a reddish tone to it. To me, when I apply this, it looks quite blushy. If you want to see this applied, I did wear this in a Get Ready With Me video. And this is one of those blushy bronzers that I really enjoy that. I find it looks a lot more natural on my skin tone if something's a little bit more rosy versus super orange. And a quality I mention all the time, if it's a product I happen to love, is how thin the product is, and this does just lay so well with the skin. Since there's only one shade, it's not gonna work for a ton of people, but I must say I have been really enjoying it for myself. So if you're fair to light skin, you might like that. Okay, I have a whole bunch of eyeshadow to talk about. Let's talk about the one that I'm wearing on my lid. So I had a friend give me a couple of duos from What's Up Beauty. So this is what they call the Lattetude duo. So it comes with this matte and this beautiful sparkle shade. The matte feels nice and silky, a little powdery, but that's not something that bothers me with eyeshadow. So there we have the two shades. I am wearing these today. I'm wearing just a little bit of the matte through my crease. I didn't want to wear anything too crazy. That's kind of my go-to look, just a very soft matte through the crease. And I found it to be very, very easy to blend. Just an overall joy to work with. Very, very pleasant. And then this shade over here, is this indicative of other What's Up Beauty shimmers? I'd be very interested to know because it is the prettiest wet coat. Wet coat? Wet looking top coat. So I'm hoping you can see the twinkle that is. It is so beautiful. This is a perfect little duo for me. This is something I would easily travel with and totally up my alley for very simple eyeshadow looks that I have been into. And What's Up Beauty, I'm just so happy to be able to try this because it's been a indie brand on my radar. So thank you so much to my friend for gifting that to me. She did also give me another one of those called Plumour, which looks like that. I'll have to save this one for a different Roundup video because I haven't tried that one yet. Okay, I am finally ready to talk about the Pokemon Colourpop palette. I have been trying this out all summer. It just took me that long to be able to fully review this palette. When I'm reviewing eyeshadow palettes, I do like usually to have used every single shade so I can give you the best feedback possible. Obviously, this is not usually the eyeshadow kind of color story that I go for. I tend to go for very, very neutral palettes, but this is definitely very nostalgic for me. So I'm loving the whole Pokemon theming. But as for the actual formula, it is much softer than what I have expected or what I'm used to from Colourpop. This is something you need to be very careful with. Like, I feel like you could easily push your finger through a lot of these mattes that are very powdery, but I found them to be very easy to work with as well. I tried to review this palette by wearing them in quads. So I did try each eyeshadow look like that. If I manage to save any on my phone, I will try to put them up now. The one I found easiest to wear would probably be this yellow row, just because it's got this nice neutral brown. And I also like yellow eyeshadow. And then probably followed by these oranges and reds. I was actually very surprised by this red. It's very pretty. And in general, I think the only shade that I was not excited about was this shade up here called Jelly Donut. I really was expecting that to be something special. And while it was pretty on the lid, it just wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Didn't have nearly the heft that I was looking for. It just seemed pretty meh to me, but it was pretty on the lid. Also, this particular shades of green in this palette I found quite difficult to wear. Like, these are definitely not greens I normally go for, but you know, that's just me. But I did try to make it work, and it was a very fun eyeshadow day, that's for sure. When I picked this up, I really didn't know what I was going to decide to do with it, but for now, I think I'm going to hang on to it. Its color story is very, very unique to my collection, and sometimes I do randomly want a very specific bright pop of color, and this would definitely help me out to find those colors that I'm looking for. Okay, so now we have to talk about the re-release of the Urban Decay Naked palette. So I did a whole video where I swatched out this palette and I tried to dupe it with other shades from my collection. If you haven't seen that video, spoiler alert, I was unable to do so. The shades in here are unique, at least to the rest of my collection. So usually I do try to use each shade at least one time before reviewing it. I admit I have not used all the deepest shades over here, but I have used the majority of these. I think the quality is nice. I think the mattes are very nice and blendable. I mean, granted, this palette only has 2 mattes, but they're very, very easy to use. And this palette is right up my alley. I can see why people were obsessed with it for years, and I think I'm really happy actually to have it in my collection. This is one that I'm gonna want to reach for. And I do think the quality of the shimmers and the mattes is better than my little mini Naked 3 that I have. So they've made their formula better somehow, which is delightful. Okay, one more palette. So I did a whole video about this little Surratt palette. So this is the name of the palette. I'm not even gonna attempt to try to pronounce that, but it has a blush and 2 eyeshadows. So I am wearing the blush from this palette today. The blush is called Vie En Rose, and it's a very beautiful, they call it a taupey rose, or a rosy taupe. I think it's just kind of pink. So I kind of went on about this formula in my review video with this. I really do think it's a special formula. It's a slurry formula where it starts off wet, and when it dries, it becomes like this beautiful kind of fluffy texture, even though it's still a cream, or even though it's still a powder, sorry, not a cream. It just feels almost whipped and kind of airy. But the actual formula itself is not powdery. It's very different and unusual, and it's wonderful to work with. So that goes for the blush and the eyeshadows. And I realized I misspoke in my last video. I thought that this was a matte. Actually, I believe it is a satin. So the shade Truth here is a satin. In that video, I'm like, wow, this matte is so satiny. Well, that explains it. It's an actual satin, but it creates the most beautiful blend. Like, it's just lovely. And then the shade Zibbeline over here is just a beautiful single shadow eye look shade. Like that you can just wear by itself. At the end of that video, I concluded that I didn't think that this was worth full price. Surratt is a luxury brand. Their things are very overpriced in my opinion, but I think that their powders are the best that I have ever tried. So I have been very impressed. Oh, and I still think it smells like classic CoverGirl. I don't know. To me, that's exactly what it smells like. All right, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys for watching all the way to the end of the video. Since, you know, I'm still filming on the same day, I'm still sipping on the same cup of tea as I was last time I talked to you guys. I just drinking classic Twinings Earl Grey. So I just had someone declutter their collection and give me a large amount of things to try. So stay tuned. I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon in the next one. Bye.